So we're going to use the Shelley Grinder to crystallize all of our content for our speech. At this point, you're using the tree grid and you've already filled in your big idea in section A. So section B and C is what we're going to work on right now with the grinder. Section B is all of your content that supports your big idea in your presentation. Things like anecdotes, stories, data points, case studies, quotes you might have, any piece of content that substantiates your big idea. And in column C, we're asking, why is that piece of content important? What value does it bring to the big idea and presenting it in the first place? So using the grinder and my piece of content with why it's important, let's start with step one, 90 seconds. And I'm doing a workshop on networking. So my content is going to be wrapped around different ways that one could network. Here we go. So one of the most important pieces of content that I have to share in my networking presentation is an interesting node data point that 83%, that's 83% of employers say that that is their top source for hiring people through networking. Imagine that. The whole idea that there are studies out there actually saying that the more you network, the more visible you are, and the more the people that want to hire you, whether it's inside job for a company or consulting work, is because they've heard about you, somebody refers you. And again, that number is 83%. This is super important for the visibility, the credibility, and the opportunity for others to refer you in. And it's inbound business as opposed to you always having to prove yourself or sell yourself. Your visibility sells for you. Okay, so now I'm going to stop the timer and we're going to set it for 1 minute on the clock. And we're going to grind that idea, that data point, even more concisely. It'll look something like this. There are many studies around networking that say the visibility and the idea that people see how you do your work is really what's going to help you get your job. And 83% of employers, of people that hire consultants, say that they have relied on referrals through networking. So when you're networking, it's important to be out there and let people hear your stories, know and see what you're all about in an effort to get them to learn what it might be like working with you. Okay, it's getting less cumbersome, but it still feels a little wordy. I feel like I'm wandering a little bit. So step 3 of the Shelley Grinder, 30 seconds. Why am I bringing up this piece of content and why it's important to the idea of networking? 83% of employers hire people through networking. This is important because your visibility is greater and they could see what it might be like working with you, as opposed to lines on a resume that don't really say who you are and why you are really good at what you do. Whew. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the timer again and set it for 1 minute. Why this data point is important for networking and having a great networking experience. There are many studies done around networking that say visibility really helps elevate your opportunities and chances to get hired. As a matter of fact, the data point says 83% of people hiring do it through recommendations, through networking and referrals. This is super important because it is an inbound lead to you, which makes selling so much easier and so much more organic. There, in less than a minute's time, I explained why that data point was important and shared it with the audience. Now I know how I can talk about it in many different ways within my talk. Do this grinder for all of your sections B and C, and then you're ready to present. Great news, the conversation continues. When you subscribe, like, and ring the bell, you'll know when a new episode has released. As always, speak remarkably.